I'm having him recopy all the parts in Finale and make full scores, rehearsal letters, MP3s of the Finale recording so people know what they're supposed to sound like. Because a lot of them, there's not even recordings of these solos, so, and today people are, they sort of lean on that as a way to learn things.
Sure.
Sort of like we did when I went to this. I was telling somebody this yesterday. I used to buy every record that had Snooky Young's name on it and Clark Terry and all those names that I sort of knew from being from New York. And today nobody knows who was on any record.
Yeah.
It's a trumpet. I wonder who that trumpet player is. So, I'll call up one of the guys, and ask them. I say, hey, are you all playing on this? Who's playing on this? Oh, that's Gary Grant, or that's this guy, oh, that's Jim Hines from New York. That's this guy. That's the only way you find out. So nobody knows it unless you know somebody.
Nobody's making headlines.
Right.
Yeah, I always say that about, because Rick Baptist, I said,
oh yeah, Rick.
He's on everything. But he's not making headlines, but
yeah.
He's vice president of the union.
Hey, Walt.
Hey, how are
Hey,
you?
Walt. Good, buddy. I just wanted to check.
Hey, Larry.
How you feeling, Larry? You feeling good?
Hey, are you in Utah? Are you in Utah?
I'm in Utah helping my sister who's going through a very difficult time physically.
I'm sorry.
So I'm here for a couple of months going through that process.
Oh, well.
But I just wanted to interject. That's so true about the liner notes. When I was a kid, I'd go to Tower Records and I'd stay there for hours and hours and hours, and I'd study those liner notes. And if Walt Johnson was on it, I'd buy it. Well, there's some truth in that. But
Kenny,
in those days, we knew on the recordings. Now we get these MP3s. There's no album covers. There's no listings, unless we just really research it.
Well, not only
half
that,
the time it's not listed.
A lot of times it's look at the amount of studio people today that know the sound of the traditional music. A lot of them don't.
Dom, what's up, Dom?
They're gone.
Hey,
They're
guys.
gone. Those people are gone. And unless you apprenticed under those people, you don't really know how to make that sound. You know what I mean? With electronic, with microphones and distances and things, unless you were there. It's hard to recreate that. They got all this software, the microphone box and stuff like that. That's great, but it doesn't substitute for people's ears, and what it's supposed to sound like, mixing it together so it sounds like a band. You have to record, and you have to.
On the mixing side, it's really interesting because that's something we've come up against recently, where the engineer I work with goes around the world and studies with all his heroes. He's a young man, and yeah, it's really good. He spent a crazy fortune doing that as an engineer, but he with things like Universal Audio and stuff, they're actually trying to bring that back, like with their emulator mics, the Slate emulator mics and Universal Audio in intakes and stuff. We did a test where we put up. He usually uses three different mics for my trumpet, and I'm a singer, so two for my voice, that he likes to mix together, right? And a lot of engineers have all sorts of tricks they use like that. So which is above my pay grade, but he put them up and he put a single slate in each of those, and then he emulated the track, like he duplicated the track, and then he put a different emulated mic, like one on a U87 and one is and we compared it against the other, and you like orally, we just couldn't even. He was trying to run it through software to try to see if he could tell, if the software could tell, and he couldn't. So it's true that they haven't, but I think, and there was a project I was working on. They wanted the Motown sound, but they wanted the sound. And I'm like, well, we need to rip out the floor and put in dirt, and we need to, let's get intense. And Universal Audio has a whole system now on training people to, to get that sound and learning it. And they've put it into a lot of the software. So it's true that, it doesn't do it justice. Thank goodness they can't sequence horns yet, right? Effectively. But yeah, like it's starting to come along. It's pretty interesting to see that and to see the passion for that, the specific sounds that were created by so many great ears.
There's no substitute for a good room, a good performance room, where you don't have to add a lot of electronic reverb and and this and slapback and this, all these different things they have. I'm not a good recording person. I like to play with the recording stuff, see what all those things do, and I go, what would I use that for? I wouldn't use that for anything. So I just X that out, what's that for? Whoop, whoop. I'm going, well, hell, I would never make a sound like that. So that one's gone. So you end up with just the 3 or 4 different reverbs to try to simulate what a room would sound like that you'd like to play in, or you go find a place, usually what I do. I have a couple of churches that are not too live, that I can do recordings in, and it sounds like me. It doesn't sound like somebody, who thinks they know what a trumpet sounds like, and they're really wonderful people, but they're a concept of what my trumpet, or it's not just a trumpet, it has a certain perspective to it. Just like if you hear 3 notes by Clark Terry, you go, oh yeah, that's Clark Terry, man. That's, you can't miss it. Cootie Williams. I mean, you can't hear Bill Chase. I mean, all those people have a signature sound, and it really doesn't come from the microphone. It comes from strictly in the air. You really feel it in the air. And most of us have been lucky enough to hear lots of music through the air with very little miking, and then all of a sudden, when you hear yourself on some recording, you go, well, hell, that didn't turn out too good. And you're going, well, what do you mean? It sounds great. Yeah, but it just sounds like a trumpet. Any trumpet could sound like that. They just wash it out. And
aren't they getting back to tube amps and vinyl just for that reason, to make it a warmer sound,
Yeah.
And it just, the old fashioned, you listen to it, it has a warmth to it that it doesn't have on the digital thing. I don't really hear it, but a lot of people do.
Well, the digital editing too is another aspect that doesn't really, I mean, I hear, I made a recording for ITG for this next conference, and they said, well, can you, do like a virtual concert? I said, yeah, I'll send you all live videos. I said, the quality is different because it's in different places. But I said, there's a few mistakes in just about every piece, but that's what I play like. This is me. You know what I mean?
Right on, man.
You know what I mean? I go, I'm sorry. I always call up Jens and I say, Jens, that's pretty good, man. How many edits did you have in that? And he goes, well, not that many. Not that many. I said, what's not that many? He goes, well, I don't know. I wasn't there. I go, well, yeah, Jens, and he's great. I mean, Jens is unbelievable. But I love kidding him about, because I mean, it's like a whole production. I mean, the whole thing is a production. And that's just not, I guess I come from a generation that's, just you go out, you take your horn out, you play. Like I said, it's just like going bowling. Some nights you go out there and you say, man, that was the best bowling I've done in a long time. And then the next night you go out and you go, Jesus, why did I even pick this thing up today? You know what I mean?
I think it's like a car.
Yeah.
It's like a car that doesn't run the same every day. One day it starts right up and it takes off, and the other day it's like, like doesn't even start. And the trumpet is the same way. It's just, it's never the same.
And then you die in the trumpet.
Guys, before we stray from recording, I'm going to tell you about a quick experience that I had a couple of years ago in Malta. They heard I was in town, so they hired me to do a track on top 40. And there was a young engineer. We laid it down. It sounded great. And I said, well, send me a copy. I'd like to hear what it sounded, the entire thing sounds. Like, yeah, sure. So he sends it to me about 3 months later. And I listened to it, and I couldn't believe it. I heard what I thought was a synthesized trumpet, because he had EQ'd it. So that's the concept of what was. His trumpet, it really sounded electronic. It sounded like a synthesizer. It didn't capture any of my tone. It was completely 100% synthesized. And it sounded as if he'd used some sort of plug-in for Logic. Anyways, that's what's happening today.
So let me just maybe, now that we have everybody connected, maybe I do a very, very quick introduction and just mention everybody that I see on the screen currently, and then we can get into some of the discussions and come back to the things that we've been talking about. So I think, as you know, from what was sent out, this Trumpet Summit has been the initiative of myself and my co-founder Tom Williams. We started originally with looking at a number of his colleagues at the Duke Ellington Orchestra and the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. And based upon that, we thought we would expand it and go a bit broader. And during this period of COVID, where a lot of us are having different challenges in the musicians' world, and especially in the trumpet world, the idea was to get together and support one another, and also to exchange ideas, concepts, stories, anecdotes, all of the things that have gone on. We had a first one in January, and it was quite successful, and we thus agreed to continue with the this and have this Trumpet Summit 2 tonight. So let me just give you a very, very brief commentary about everyone who's on the screen here and how we've come about this. So the Great Voltaire is actually Walt Johnson. And I'm very pleased that Walt Johnson came and is definitely sharing some very interesting stories with us. He came on a little bit early and shared some Elvis stories and some stories from his earlier life. So thanks very much, Walt, for being here. Next on my screen is Scotty Barnard from the Count Basie Orchestra, and very thankful very much that he could be with us as well. He also had some very interesting stories in our last Trumpet Summit, so we look forward to those discussions. Next on my screen is actually Dimitri Donat from Donat Mouthpieces in France. Actually, in one of my mouthpiece safaris for two of my new horns, I finally found some fantastic mouthpieces. And in Europe, Dimitri is considered one of the mouthpiece gurus here. So I thought it would be interesting to share him with all of you. Next is Vince DiMartino, and Vince is one of the people that I've seen so many videos of, so many master classes, and all of the aspects of interesting things. And one of the things that was always interesting about Vince is you in the master classes, you've had a valve guard on all of your trumpets, a leather valve guard. So I don't hesitate to put a valve guard on all of my trumpets, and thank you for that. Next, I have Larry Maragellano, who, of course, is the inventor of the CTS system and one of the people that I've come in contact with in my Facebook wanderings. Thank you very much for being with us, Larry. I know you're not at home, and our thoughts and prayers are with your sister and with you as well at this time. Next on my screen is Johnny Summers, and Johnny, actually, again, as I said in the last one, Johnny has been a motivation for me to not just do my little pop-up concerts, but also to add the singing component to it. And I'm having all kinds of interesting challenges with microphones and systems and so on. And but thank you very much, Johnny, for being with us today. Next on my screen is Grant Peters, who is the president of the ITG. And the ITG, of course, in the last Trumpet Summit, also put a small news item on the webpage, and I'm planning to send a small news item for the webpage this time. And by the way, that also means that this session is being recorded, just so you're aware of the situation. Next on my screen is Josh Trinidad. Josh actually is a trumpeter who has moved from Colorado to New York City.
Yeah.
And very, very recently, and is someone who I came in contact with because actually I purchased a horn from him. So some very very interesting, if I remember correctly, kind of heavy metal jazz or black jazz that you've been doing. Some very interesting things. So thank you for being with us, Josh.
Yeah.
Next on my screen is Bria Skonberg. And hi, Bria. She actually came in some of the YouTube videos I was seeing of her, or Facebook, I believe it was. And I saw a number of Christmas tunes she had done, and I thought it would be very, very interesting to have her share this time with us. So thank you very much for being with us, Bria. Next on my screen is Chris Johnson. Chris is one of the motivations that I have for starting some experiments in looping. I saw a number of his looping videos and always was really impressed with what he's done with the looper. And I bought the same one, and I've been playing around with it now. Haven't yet posted any of them, but hopefully in the near future that will be the case. Thanks for being with us, Chris. Next on my screen is Alicia Rao. Alicia Rao, of course, is Happy Clappy Hour. She is one of the ones, again, that I've come in contact with on Facebook, and very, very pleased with her motivation in actually touching the education side. And I saw that recently she's back in Iowa for a bit. And thank you very much for being with us, Alicia. Next on my screen, I see Kenny Rampton. And Kenny, in my mind, you're Mr. Mute. You know, you've got the mute with the penny, the blue plunger mute, and of course the Chicago the buzz what is it called, the buzz mute. I mean, fantastic stuff you've got there, really. Thank you very much for being with us. Of course, you're with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and I've seen that you've had some gigs recently as well. Next on my screen, I see Charlie Porter, and thanks, Charlie, for coming and being with us. I've seen all of your videos about testing new horns and also using the hole of the scissors as a embouchure view system. And thank you very much for all of your positive things, and thanks for being with us. Next on the screen, I see Ron D'Angelo, who is actually one of the few who has known me when I was much, much, much younger, playing the trumpet in Pennsylvania before I took my 30-year hiatus from playing the trumpet. And Ron, thank you so much for being here. I know you're in Florida and you're a bit mobile, but
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
yes.
So I don't know if there's going to be too much noise where I am. I don't know. I don't want to interfere with what you're doing, but
Man, looks
problem.
great there.
No problem with noise. No problem at all.
Is that Walt?
Yeah, sir. How are you been? Hey, Ron.
How you doing?
Good.
I got to play fourth trumpet to you once about 12 years ago for Frank Jr. in Rochester. It was a blast.
Rochester. Wow. Frank Sinatra?
Junior, yep.
Junior, yeah.
Yep.
So great. Let me just mention that Terry Warburton wants to be with us. He was out on his boat fishing, so he's going to either try to connect with us via, a mobile connection, or he's hopefully going to get back to his home in time to join us a bit later. Andy Taylor has expressed his apologies, as he won't be able to attend. Bill Dowling has a gig, actually, and so he's busy. And there's one other, Lucas Frey from Switzerland, also has a gig and was unable to attend.
Oh, sure.
And with that, I'll pass it to my co-founder, Tom Williams, just to say a few words and to welcome everyone. Thanks a lot, Tom. To you.
Yeah, well, as Mark was saying earlier, I was on Facebook. I don't know. You said the first one was in January, was it? Mark?
Well, we had the one in August with your colleagues from Kenny Rittenhouse and so on.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
James Solar as well, and
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Wow. So anyway, yeah. Originally, I mean, I didn't have any plans. I was on, and a few guys were talking, and and it was like, well, why don't we do a trumpet hang? And I had never done that before. I was new totally to Zoom, and my teaching, the school where I teach, insists that we use Google Meet. So I didn't know how to use Zoom, and I know they're, the same type of software, but they're different, somewhat at least. So I just kind of threw it out, like, why don't we do a trumpet hang sometime? And everybody was like, yeah, that's cool. And, I don't know, 30, 40 people said, yeah, let's do it. And so then it came time to do the thing, Sunday afternoon. And it was like, what was it? 7 or 8 of us, Mark?
yeah, there were
Maybe.
about 7, 8. Yep.
But it was, my original thing was just talk, what's going on, I mean, this is obviously, at least for me, and I would imagine most of you, the weirdest time ever professionally. And I was thinking it would be a good, way to communicate and maybe even vent, or whatever, So it wasn't, I didn't have any specific goals, in mind, or, just kind of literally a hang, And Mark really really got involved in this, and has really, been organizing this. And I'm so glad, because I even though I'm not working much, I mean, playing the trumpet, I'm actually doing way more teaching than I've ever done. So I got kind of busy, and thank you, Mark, for handling all this, or all the organizational aspect of it. So anyway, that's all, that's how it came to this, I guess, at least in my mind. So yeah, that's all I got. Anybody else have something to offer?
Well, pretty much we're all in the same boat, as far as gigs, we were talking about it, and we're going to have to shape our own destiny, because I don't think it's ever going to come back. There's going to be a new normal, whether it's mask or distancing or plexiglass or something. It's going to be different. And it's going to maybe be a long time before it's normal. So we pretty much have to shape our own thing, form our own little bands, or do whatever we have to do, because it's different now. I mean, I've got both my vaccinations. I'm ready to travel. I'm ready to gig again. I keep my chops up, but where in California here, where there's no place, and I'm sure it's the same a lot of places. I mean, it might be opening up, but are the older people going to come hear jazz? The people that like Sinatra music, are they going to still come because they're scared? I don't know. It's just, I feel insecure.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're not alone. And, my thing was, my thoughts were, I live in Baltimore, Maryland, but I play mainly in DC. And in DC, at least 3 or 4 places that would have jazz have closed. And I'm, like you're saying, well, I do think it's going to be a new normal. I mean, if you can sit in your living room or wherever and, pay 10, 15 bucks and hear a great band play, then why? I mean, okay, I know it's not the same. We all know that. But then I think, other than musicians, we really get that. But the general public that likes jazz perhaps might not feel like getting in their car, sitting in DC traffic, which is atrocious, paying 25, 30 bucks to park, paying 35 bucks to get into the joint with a 2-drink minimum, all of that, when you can pay 10, 15, 20 bucks to sit home. So yeah, I wonder. I mean, I'm hoping for the best. I hope that the new normal's not going to be. That's the way everybody, does this.
And there's casinos. How about casinos? Do you think are they going to be reopened, or
I would imagine at some point.
I mean, the entertainment probably be different, though, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Recorded, I don't know.
I really feel strongly, though, that I've got some interesting connections with where I live. My next door neighbor is the head of infectious diseases for the province I live in, and so I've heard really interesting viewpoints from them. But there's also just I think you're right in the sense that things will change, but we may have to be a little bit more precautious in some things. But people crave the human experience, and I'm really thinking that there's going to be more of a renaissance than anything. The only difference is this is normal now. Like we never used to get, even though the technology was there, we never get together and chat like this.
Right.
And it's opened up some really cool things that we never had before. And I think you will have people. Charlie, you sounded great the other night, by the way. I caught most of your set. I lost the last couple, but it was great, man. And yeah, it was awesome. And I never got to hear Charlie play a set with his band before, and I love your records too. So I was like, I could hear that, but I can't, so it opens up for that. And I think like, and Kenny, I've been watching you with Jazz and Lincoln Center for years and years. And I watched tons of those live streams, especially when traveling and touring. So I get to know his playing really well. So I think we might get more of that, and get more connection. I just remember at the Jazz Radio Conference a couple of years ago where they said, more people are consuming jazz recorded music than in the history of the world. There's no monetization in it, but it's being streamed, it's being spun. So I think we might have a really interesting hybrid that starts to come out, where once everyone gets stuck, the assumption is, well, now we can just go out. And as my neighbor explained to me, because it is what he does for a living, he said, and I think he's going to retire when this is done because I think he's pretty exhausted from all this. But he said, like a lot of the fear mongering and a lot of the things you see from politicians and from media isn't accurate, as we probably guessed, and that the vaccine really it kills the protein, so it doesn't. So variants really should be covered by it, but I mean they still have to sell media. So he said, and then that becomes the point where you've done the best you can, you've given the population the best protection you can, then you start to slowly open things up. And the last thing I could say you said is like, well, people who crave Sinatra come out and stuff, and we do. I direct the Calgary Jazz Orchestra here in the town I live in, and we bring in guests and we do theme shows mostly. I do most of the writing and orchestrating for it, but we do a Sinatra show every year, a Christmas Sinatra show. And it's not just people who knew the music. It's this huge range of people that are coming out to it. And part of the demographic that is retired that comes out, I can say they're writing us. They're writing the office for the CJO going, like they're chomping at the bit to come back. And on the business side of things, we just started something that I wanted to do for a long time, which was we're live streaming just to our subscribers, not to the public, as a total experiment. I don't know if this will work. And we're charging a subscription fee. It's like $11 a month, and we live stream, and then we have it in the studio, and we have it professionally recorded and videoed. So we stream to them, and then again, only to the subscribers, but then after they get a mixed version of the record that we made live. And right now we're just doing it with small group, but I think we're going to continue that, it seems, because as that's growing and as those people are getting interested and they're still going, this is great. And all these comments are going, they're liking it, which is wonderful, but they're saying, we want to come see you live. Like, we can't wait till we can come see the full band live, like as much as we like this. So I think we might just be adding more ways to connect with people, and use technology might be in our culture now.
I think let's look at the past and learn history. Harold Mitchell was my mentor of many years. Harold Pappy Mitchell, who wrote the books Mitchell on Trumpet. Well, he was the very first recording trumpet player in the recording industry for movies. He played the very first talkie movie, Jazz Singer, with Al Jolson. And he was telling me in those days that they had full orchestras in the major cities. And they would send out scores along with the movies, and they would rehearse and they'd play along with the talking movies. And so everyone had a gig then. I mean, you couldn't do anything without live musicians. You couldn't do a radio show. You couldn't do a play, or for that matter, in the Automats in New York City, they had quintets that were playing, string quintets. There was no such thing as quality recording music. So my point is that when talkie movies came in, many people lost their jobs, and some of them committed suicide. They didn't adapt. And as we go on in time, technology has largely replaced us as live musicians. But now we're getting to a position where we're going back to the home entertainment. What I have in my living room for under $1,000 is wonderful fidelity with crystal clear. I can watch the jazz at the Lincoln Center, and it feels like I forget that I'm in my living room. But as this happens, we adapt and learn to bring our art into those venues. So I think that our music will always be there, but we're going to have to be flexible and change around. Having said that, while a large portion will remain in the home as far as entertainment, I think that we're going to crave live music. We've been starved of all live activities for how long? Maybe a full 2 years before we get back to some sort of normalcy. And that's when the Roaring '20s is going to happen. I don't know about you, but I hope I'm prepared for it.
Yeah. I think I have a couple of statements. I think all those things that you said, everybody said is true. I think we have the stalwart groups like the Lincoln Center, Jazz Orchestra, Count Basie, the last of the ones that go across the whole spectrum of ages, like the Sinatra and all that, and Tony Bennett. And I think those are things that are great advertisements for what we do on a regional basis. I think we're going to be doing more regional things for a while, and I think that's a good thing. Because I mean, somebody like Charlie, the only reason I knew about him a while back was because he taught away, and he was known as a great teacher and a great performer. Now I can tune in and hear him, and he's fantastic, and I find out easier to get the recordings. Everything's a little easier. So I think people, most of us here, are older, and therefore sometimes we neglect the things that my son has found. He tells me, Dad, you need to come and see my Twitch thing. I said, what? Twitch, man? I was twitching already, man. I'm getting to the point where I twitch all the time now. And he's laughing, I said, so on Fridays at 3:00, he has a session every Friday, and he practices, so young people can hear him practice and what he does and what he's trying to do, and I think things like that. Also, master classes wise, everyone that you do, I call it the Walmart, or even Sam's Club. Sam's Club's even better, right? You go in Sam's Club and there's a guy my age sitting at the end of one of the aisles, and he's got this little thing with crackers and cheese on it, And he goes, you want to taste this cracker? All I have to do is put my hand out, and I mean, it's right there. I don't have to do anything. I taste, wow, that's great cheese. I could use that for this. I could do this with it. See, so once your audience, I mean, I can't tell you when I was a student at Eastman, even way back, I think this is true of a lot of people. I used to volunteer at churches. I go up to the organ floor at Eastman, and I'd ask organists to read through a solo with me. And usually nobody talked to them at all because they were all so different. And so I go up there and they'd say, hey, do you think you could come to my church this Sunday and play this like as a prelude and a postlude? Some Baroque piece I was trying to learn. Not very well usually. But so I go there, and then invariably somebody would come up and say, my cousin's getting married in about 2 months. Could you come and play the wedding? Yeah. And I played every weekend, and none of the trumpet players, hardly any of them, figured out why I was always working. Because I it was an advertisement. And this technology that we have now, look at, I have a special chair at my house. It's called the Jens Lindemann timeout chair. And when he shows up at the house, he knows that my wife is going to sit him in the timeout chair if he's bad. Okay? But you watch what he does on the internet. And I mean, he's engaging. Young people relate to that. You watch the Lincoln Center things. I mean, the Lincoln Center and Wynton Marsalis, honestly, as far as things that have happened starting in the '70s, let's say, and '80s, has done more for music and for jazz and for classical trumpet, for that matter, too, because there's a constant advertisement, a constant news media, you know. So if you can do that in your neighborhood, a person who's done that is oh boy, in Atlanta. Uh, he's a trumpet player. Who's the trumpet player who has that group in Atlanta? Does anybody know?
But by the way, we have two of the those who do those types of things as well with us. That's both Alicia Rao and Bria
Right.
Skolberg.
I
So
do
I
it all
mean,
the time.
they're getting out and they're sharing in the community
Yeah.
what they're doing. And both of them are the reason they're here is because you know, I'd love to hear their viewpoints on what you're talking about. I think I think that they're both using the medium in the best way possible.
And
So
just one more thing is that um, we also have to support one another that way. You know, when I hear somebody, the first thing I do is, I don't know if you've noticed that I very rarely say anything about what I'm doing on Facebook. I usually use it to promote something that somebody I know is doing. And I think that's a really good thing to do. You know, because it points, you know, if any of the distinguished people that are here today do that on a regular basis, you'd be surprised how many people watch or at least tune in for a certain amount of time to hear, oh boy, and then they get sent back to you. I really enjoyed so and so. You know, that to me, that's a success for me. That's what I consider to be. So that, you know, I think today, because people are looking into the screen, they're looking at the screen and they want to find things there. And I think people like Bria and others are there and they're doing great things. And so we need to always be pointing our finger at those things, because that's, if there is a normal right now, that's normal.
Yep.
We can morph into something in the future, but right now we've got to deal with what's here. I mean, look at Kenny. I see Kenny all the time. He's doing all different things. Everything from supporting some young person to talking about new mutes, which I'm going to get some of those. I know it. It's going to go with my other 150 mutes, you know. Okay, so that's
so maybe we give Bria a shot to say a few words, and then Alicia as well after that as well, and also Chris. I mean, again, Chris as well has been doing some things too. So anyway,
That's really generous of you, Vince. I mean, I think if there's one takeaway already, what can we all do? Let's go to our socials and point the finger at somebody else that's doing something cool. That's easy. It doesn't cost anything, and it just builds everybody up. So thanks for the reminder. We always do it, but definitely add that in. Yeah, again, just such a pleasure to see you all, to see people.
Yeah, really.
I am so ready to make some music and make some trumpet sound outside of the 10 feet in front of me. Oh my goodness.
Really.
Yeah, I'll just share that, you know, last year, I'm grateful that my thought process was just to do a quick pivot and not think about, okay, what can't I do, but what can I do right now? I mean, like all of us, and I think I just immediately started doing these Facebook live streams that were so lower quality than all of the stuff that I had been working up towards for years. You know, I feel like at the beginning of last year, I just finally reached a spot where I was like, my concert, I've got pacing and timing and all the stories and lighting and all that stuff together, and then immediately just disseminated and turned into like just hacking through chords on a ukulele, because it was something I could do to bring people together and ultimately make some money. So I think that's, you know, to add, just to support again what Larry's saying, what Johnny's saying, like, you know, we have to be able to adapt, focus on what you can do. I think, you know, becoming a full-time professional musician about 15 years ago, I always heard a lot of the older generation saying, oh, it's not how it used to be, you know, we used to do this, we used to do that, and especially before 9/11, and thinking like, you know, I had a backwards luxury of never knowing those good old days. You always had to hustle, like you always have to make it happen for yourself. You have to have ideas, you have to improvise, ultimately. So this is definitely another level of that. Johnny's spot on, I think, and hello to my fellow Canadian. From Chilliwack. Yes.
Awesome.
I think the key word you said was monetization. I've been spending a lot of time during the pandemic trying to figure out what is, what are the assets that I do have between original music, recorded works that I have, and then just making sure that I'm lined up in all the proper channels to receive those 0.001 cents that come, so getting organized on that front is key. So, I mean, yeah, whatever, just keeping an open mind and continuing to adapt in whatever ways you can. That's what we do. And how do you serve others? Alicia, checking out what you're doing, why don't you go ahead and speak on your biggest project?
Sure. It's funny, Ria, you mentioned that you started off live streaming and like felt like it was compared to what you were doing such a different level, and that's where I started. I had never really done live streaming, and then I was hearing the people clap at 7 p.m. during the frontline switchover of frontline workers, and so I just went to my roof and started playing to add to the cheering and the pots and pans, and then after a few days was like, wait, I could share this with people in Iowa and somebody in France, and started live streaming it. And then I was like, wait, now I have to do it every day. And so I did it for 60 days. And after about 60 days, a friend of mine that's been editing some videos was like, it needs to be better quality. Let's start editing. Let's get a better camera. And so just started to switch. And I was like, no, I want it to be live. That was the whole point. But then we started to see that there are other ways to make it so it doesn't have to be at 7 p.m. every night, but it could be something to present. And it gives me something to do when I wasn't gigging. What was interesting with that, talking about like the new norm and adapting, I remember the first month, I hated hearing people say it's the new norm. I was like, no, it's not, because I didn't want to accept it. But I was willing to adapt to things. But I kind of, like, it took time to realize, okay, this is not just for a month. And it may become new norm, but I think really that adaptation is so important. And I actually, in the process, learned how to do online teaching. And I can do a quick show. I have this Atom Mini, which is like a soundboard. And so I can switch. I'm going to try it now. I can switch to the keyboard. I can have a picture-in-picture, so I can talk to my students while I play. I have another camera that I can have picture-in-picture and show my valves and teach. And so like that's another level of like I would never think teaching online would be that easily adaptable in a different way.
What are you using to use the two cameras?
ATEM Mini. So you hook your cameras up through that. It's kind of like a soundboard, switchboard. So I run
What kind
Zoom.
of cameras are you using?
I have what are they called? Vizio, two Vizio cameras, and then the one for the keyboard is a GoPro.
And you keep those plugged into the power supply the whole time?
Yeah, I have them all into the board, and then that goes into the.
It looks really good.
Thanks. It's fun, and then like there's a fourth channel that I connect to the iPad. So if I wanted to show a PDF and zoom in, I can like show music or a YouTube channel. So
that's all professional, like.
Oh, it was an adaptation for me. Because I was all fine with just like, I've got an iPad, that looks fine. But it's made it more exciting for myself and for the students that I teach.
Great idea.
So, yeah, I'll put that info on right here in the chat so you guys can see it.
I think all trumpeters have had to get a lot more technologically savvy during this entire time.
I'm still trying to get past 3 buttons, man. Like.
Amazing.
Yeah, so,
hey, can we shift gears? And
Sure.
I wanted to ask Larry to describe his compression system in a nutshell, because I think it goes right along with my method. I mean, I know it's technical, but I just was curious. Well, I got you in front of me.
It's just a way for us to challenge the muscles of the face to a level that we've never been before. It's the exact same muscles of the embouchure. And what we're doing is we are compressing the air forward with the muscles of the face. And the biggest problem with it is people are going to look at it and judge it and say, well, let's try blowing on it. Well, we don't blow on it. You know, we don't create lots of back pressure or whatever. We use a muscular action to force the air forward. And so what we're doing is we're building the muscles of the face that are charged with compressing the air forward to the vibrating surface. I believe, Walt and I both have double C's, double E's, double F's. And the reason is because we're able to use not just the compression from the lungs, but we continue that compression process right straight through to the vibrating aperture. What this does is it gives you, let me get it for you, it gives you positive back pressure with a variable back pressure, so that as you're squeezing the air forward through the vibrating aperture, it's almost like lifting weights. So what I did is it's within the body of a normal manometer, but we changed the calibration so that it would be easier for the trumpet player, for the brass player, to torse versus
So does your
millimeters.
compression increase? I mean, as it daily, you have you can see it go up, or what?
Well, the trumpet gives us extra back, right? And so as we're blowing, in the upper register, we're maxing out the amount of tension in the muscles, but we're only going to an X amount of back pressure. This gives us the maximum. And because it gives us a maximum amount of muscular tension, and because it's measured, we can now apply the science of muscle building to the trumpet or the brass embouchure. And the advantage is this. There are three things that stop us from muscular movement within the embouchure: strong arm pressure and predetermined tension. If you study people like Carmine Caruso and Roy Stevens, they all said to let the air dictate the tension. Well, if we stay relaxed and let the air dictate the tension, the muscles of the face are activated by the compression of air and by the back pressure here.
Now, doesn't throat position come a lot into it? Because I was always taught like smelling a rose backwards, or just like yawning, or you keep your throat open and relaxed. Because people that you can hear it in their playing, they just choke off the sound with their throat.
Well,
they bring syllables in.
True, but this is a completely different discipline. We don't blow on it, so we're not using anything below the neck. We're going like this, kind of squeezing the air out. If you understand circular breathing, which I know you do, as we're using the same muscles as we do when we circular breathe. Where did Rafael Mendez get all that beautiful sound throughout the range of his instrument? While he was breathing through his nose, while he was compressing the air forward with the muscles of the face. And those are the muscles, as well as the muscles of the vibrating aperture, that we are developing with the compression training system. So it's very much like circular breathing. As you blow, squeezing out, you're breathing in. So I can hold compression while breathing. And that causes tension in the muscles, which is exercise. The danger is that it's extreme compression. So we have to be careful about how much we do. We have to use it, less is more, but when we use it correctly and get plenty of rest, it's the most effective muscle building situation I've ever had. I mean, I'm here with my sister. She's in very bad shape, and I can't make any noise here at all. I'm on call 24 hours a day. Walt, I'm stronger than I've ever been in the past using this stupid thing. Well, so it works, but that's it in a nutshell.
I believe.
Thank you for letting me.
I know what a good teacher you are. Seriously, everything you've said makes sense to me. And so, like that compression system, and how you breathe, and the Cat Anderson teaching of, like he said that once I went to Cat Anderson and I didn't have a B flat, a double B flat. I couldn't hit it. And I even gave him my trumpet with my mouthpiece. I said, could you play it on there? And he played it. And I said, well, what is it? What? He said, you're not hearing the note. And I think he's right. And there's something, you have to hear it first,
Well, what Cat did was he had us. Well, I started studying with Cat when I was 15 years old, and by then I was already a big fan of you. But anyway, what Cat had us do was practice with our teeth closed. Why on earth would you practice with your teeth closed? You're not going to get a good sound that way. What he was teaching us to do was to lengthen the vibrating aperture so that we're vibrating kind of a vibrating aperture tunnel versus flat on the teeth. So we're vibrating here. So when you open the teeth, we have that an aligned aperture, which is more forward. So what I found out about the middle G was this. Now, using the compression trainer, I found out why he had us do the middle G. It puts all that tension in the middle of the orbicularis. So I recommend with the compression trainer that we practice at low compression with it, holding it with the teeth closed.
Do you do the whisper G? Are you practicing the whisper G? You incorporate that?
No, I don't need to anymore. I'm doing it here. It's the same muscular action, but it's more concentrated. With
do you think
this
everybody
thing,
here is familiar with that system, the whisper G method? Have you ever heard of that? The whisper. You play a G in the staff for 20 minutes. I'm only able to do it for about 5. You know, it's just, but Cat could do it for 20. Huh?
So what it does is it has the effect of centralizing the fatigue in the central portion of the orbicularis. And this illustrates why he had us do it, because that's exactly what happens. As you close your teeth, it comes towards the middle. In different positions, you're working different areas of the face with this. It's a very long, involved process, and you need to study it before you can make this thing successful. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, man, it's good. I believe it. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Perhaps now we just switch gears again. Maybe I can ask Grant to mention a bit about what's going on with ITG this year, because I see that everything is moving in a direction of having everything virtual. So it'd be interesting to hear what's up with ITG, Grant. Thanks.
Exactly. Thanks for asking. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah, very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a challenging couple of years. Actually, I came on October 1st, 2 years ago, and then in that next spring is when this all started. So in my presidency, we haven't had yet a live conference, and it's been quite a challenge. But my main focus is to keep on making what ITG does as strong as it can be and help where we can, reaching out, providing free content and online seminars and such. But we had our conference canceled last year, but this year we're going to have a really great virtual conference. It was too soon to think that we could do this in Anaheim in June, obviously, although things are obviously going to be better. And I think California is stricter than a lot of places. There was not really any way that could happen. So we've put together and looked at this as an opportunity to finally really do what we've always wanted to do, was get the whole world involved. And this is a chance for us to bring in artists and presenters from really all over the world, from South America, from Asia, from Europe, and actually have tons of presentations and performances actually presented in the native language of those countries. So now we can reach out and have people from all over the world truly represented, really a diverse international conference. So through this, we've actually had an opportunity to do something really wonderful. And I think we may try to continue to do that even with our next live conference, have a component that's online so that people from other countries in other languages can enjoy some of our conference too. It's a hard, logistically bringing the whole world to a conference not only is logistically hard, but it's expensive. It's unattainable for a lot of people to fly to the United States, and vice versa. Going to Europe or somewhere else is very prohibitive, and usually we take a real beating on that kind of thing, mostly just because a lot of people, the majority of ITG is from the United States, unfortunately, but they can't necessarily all go to Europe or somewhere else. And then the duty on manufacturers taking instruments to Europe and music publishers, they get crushed on that, and so we can't have as good of exhibitors. So that's a real challenge for us, and that's why mainly the conference is in the United States. But we're working toward a day when we can try to make that work out of the country again. So this conference this year is June 1st, I think, through 4th, And if you go to the website, the lineup is up now, and it is really it's really shaping up to be a great lineup. Most of the lineup is the artists on the website, but when the schedule comes out, we're just packing it in, and really we're inviting more and more people every day. You know, in a virtual format, we can have as many people come on and do something that we can fit on there. It's really unlimited. So this is really an opportunity for us to kind of reach out and hit all the bases. So we're pretty excited about that. We also had a nice virtual thing called Listen and Learn last year as kind of a replacement from the conference. I don't know if any of you saw that, but we had a lot of people invited in to do videos, and we just on a variety of topics, just really anything you can imagine. And I think that was well received, and we left that up. That's free content, of course. And the cool thing about the conference this year is that it's very affordable. I think it's $50 for students and $100 for adults, but it's going to be available for 60 days. So if you can't make it at the beginning, you can watch it over and over and have your students see it for up to 2 months, which will be kind of a nice resource, I think. So that's mainly what's going on right now. It's I say that's all that's going on. That's quite a bit. It keeps me really, really busy. Just a lot of, I don't want to say tedious, but that's the way it gets, you know, phone calls and emails and little things going on that need to be handled with competitions and commissions and just all kinds of stuff happening. But we're excited that, you know, we've been able to kind of maintain what it is that ITG does during this pandemic and really refocus our efforts in that way. So thanks for asking.
Great. Thank you very much, Grant.
Yeah.
Maybe switch gears again. Chris, I see your new studio. I saw your new desk and everything on Facebook and your new setup. I'm very interested to hear a bit more about that and what you're doing, because I really enjoyed your looping videos and your loops. I mean, some fantastic things you've been doing, and also, of course, with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra as well. Perhaps you can share with us a bit your thoughts on everything at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Mark, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this new desk has been an absolute dream. I'm really, really stoked about it. I mean, I'm spending so much time in my home studio. I figure why not invest in the space that I'm in. It started with a chair, it went into a monitor, and then it just kind of got out of control. Um, but I'm actually dropping a video this week that kind of breaks down like the whole behind the scenes studio upgrade. What's cool is it's kind of like an L format. So I've got my iMac right here for this type of stuff, but then I've got like another workstation over here with like my other monitor, and it's more of an editing station when I'm editing videos and doing Logic Pro and stuff like that. So it's been pretty cool. So I'm just nerding out. I'm a homebody by nature, so I just decided to take advantage of the time at home and just be as productive as possible. Doing a lot of like virtual big band videos and video editing, and like you said, the loop therapy, as well as my office hours program. So content development has pretty much been my new normal at this point. And in terms of a lot of the stuff, I mean, everybody's bringing up some really great points about kind of the state of where we are with things. My take on it, my personal approach has been, we're not really trying to replace what was previously as much as just kind of creating new opportunities. I don't really know what's going to happen when things start to settle down, this idea of a new normal, whatever it's going to be. But I really like to think of it as like right now, we have all this technology available. Of all times for this to happen, at least we can be more connected than we've ever been before. At least we have all this opportunity to be connected in this virtual environment, which definitely wouldn't have been the case, had this dropped 5-10 years ago. Just imagine where we'd be, and imagine, how much more devastating it would be, because we wouldn't be able to have the technology needed to have ourselves connect in the way we are now. So I just urge everybody, to create virtual projects, connect with people, get out, get in nature, do, like whatever it is that we didn't have time to do before because we were too busy touring and all those things. Like, take advantage of the time. That's my take on it.
I had a question, Chris. Mark mentioned that you were into loops. What I'm not familiar, forgive my ignorance. What is that? And would you mind maybe, giving us a little taste of what you've been working on with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically I have a series called Loop Therapy. And basically, I'm just taking an app on my iPad Pro called Loopy HD, and I just work with that and start off with something on trumpet or something percussive, and just kind of start creating loops on tops of loops to try to create music. I actually have one that I'll share where I'm using Kenny's plunger mute. That I'm a huge fan of. It's a great mute, and I was so fortunate to get the chance to play with Kenny a few weeks back. I was subbing in for Marcus Prith, Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra. Give me a second, I'll pull this up, and yeah, I'll share this with you guys.
Just a moment. Let me open it up so you can share everything.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Let me just be sure. Let's see if I can. I think you should be able to. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Just a moment. Just a moment.
No problem.
Just a moment. I'm not. Okay. No, it's not. It was. I did it wrong. Just a moment here.
Oh yeah, it's working now. Yeah, it's working now.
Okay. It should be. You should be able to do it. Sorry about that. There you go. Great.
No problem. You guys see the blue mute and all that stuff. Let's hope the sound works. You know how this stuff goes. But yeah, this is my rendition of Motherless Child. I'll just play like a minute or so of it to kind of give you an idea of what it is. Yes, that gives you kind of like the basic idea. I've done a whole series of those.
Great.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Did a whole series that was called Loop Therapy. And the whole idea is like, how much music can I create organically, like just with my trumpet, some percussive instruments that I have. I do a couple where I'm using some sample libraries from the computer, and one-man band, I guess, type of deal. But I've found a lot of freedom in it. And honestly, I directly tie that into truly like a therapeutical process of kind of breaking through, like looped thoughts and breaking through different things and just finding a way out through music. So it's been something that's been really personal and really powerful for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing, Chris. Really, I mean,
it's my pleasure.
Really fantastic stuff. I was really impressed when I saw a number of your loop therapy videos, and as I say, it motivated me to buy the looper myself and to try out some things. But that being said, your loops are fabulous. So I mean, really,
thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you for being with us today. Really
appreciate that. Thank you.
So perhaps maybe Scotty, you mentioned you guys have some gigs coming up. You have some concerts and
yeah. The first one is May 13 at Auburn University, and I think she told me that Lincoln Center is going to be there maybe a couple of weeks before us. Is that right, Kenny? That's what she said.
I don't know.
Yeah, supposedly you guys are Auburn University. So if we Great. May 13, I think you guys probably is maybe late April or something. But anyway, it's going to be outside of this new concert hall amphitheater or something. And this thing was supposed to happen last like November, and then it got postponed because of COVID, and they moved it to April, and then they moved it to May, and then we finally had a Zoom, I mean, not a Zoom call, but a call, and they said this university or their concert series had to use the money that they had been allocated. A lot of these places get grant money every year to bring in, artists and all that. And they made a decision that if they didn't use that, well, they were told that if they didn't use that money to bring us, Lincoln Center or whomever, the money is going to be gone. You couldn't, that you just be SOL for everybody, So they decided with the vaccine happening, and I think Alabama, is going from a 6 foot thing to 3 foot, the 3 foot distance, whatever. So all of these things were lining up in a row, and I guess the people at the university decided, well, let's go ahead and do it. So it's a go. So it's May 13 for us, and we're going to do a full concert. It'll be outside, and she said about 1,000 people, but they'll be in the little pods or something, like 6 people a piece or something like that. And you can't come out unless you have your mask on. And so we'll do that, and we're going to do a live stream masterclass for a bunch of K through 12 students too. So that'll be that morning, and they'll be in their schools or wherever they're going to be, and we'll do that from the venue actually. And then that night we do a concert. So and we're supposed to. Europe is about 50-50 too for July. That's like looking like it's going to happen unless if they stop shutting stuff down. I think they start shutting things down again. But Till Bronner, you guys know Till, right? Great trumpet player Till Bronner. Yeah, our promoter, Catherine Meyer, she also promotes him, and they just did a concert in Moscow, and they played a concert hall, and it was fine. So she said they're working on getting us back, probably for Vienna and some other stuff. So it's just, we just have to wait like everybody else. But our schedule for the fall is even more full. We got the schedule the other day, and it's like every other week we're on the road going somewhere. So hopefully it'll keep happening. I got the vaccine a couple of weeks ago. I think all of the guys have it. And I also saw something on Facebook too, where it's a good idea to get your the card that shows you've been vaccinated, have it laminated, So I think I might do that. I've already put it inside of my passport because I know if I have my passport, I'll have that, And so we just, it's just like a week to week thing to get more information. I stay in touch with the news, obviously, and our students here at FSU, I did have one trumpet student who did have COVID about 2 weeks ago. And, but he told me like the week after, it had been a week since I'd seen him in my office, And my office is big enough where we always are more than 6 feet apart with our mask on and everything. But he somehow got it because his roommate actually had it. I think he got it from his roommate. But we shut all our stuff down on campus in the music department for at least 2 weeks. I didn't go on campus. Everybody got tested. All of our students went to get tested again. Luckily, we were all negative. And then I found out about the shot. I actually drove over to Jacksonville to get it because working at Florida State, you're a state worker. So I heard state workers could get it. So I drove over and got it. And I was in and out in 30 minutes. And when I got there, they said, do you want the 2-shot one or do you want the 1 shot? I said, give me the 1, man. I don't have to get 2. Why do I want to get 2? So I got the 1 shot. And I was back home at 6 o'clock, and no side effects whatsoever. I mean, none. And so, I just think one of the things that Bria mentioned and that Chris mentioned that to me that sums up the way I think about all of this, it's just a state of mind, man. There's nothing we can do about what's going on, really, other than take care of yourself, So for me, for me, I've always been an optimistic person and a positive person. And I get that from my dad. And to give you an example of what I mean, my dad, for example, he passed away a few months ago, but he was the kind of guy that if he was sitting in a house and the house started burning down, like literally around, he would sit right there and wouldn't even move, man. He'd just wait till it's burnt down and say, okay, we're gonna get another house. That's how his mind was. He never allowed whatever was apparent in front of him to bring him down or to get his outlook so dark that he couldn't see a way forward. So for me, all of the stuff that's going on, I still look at there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I still keep thinking that. I still keep thinking it might not get back to how it was before, but it could be better too. Like Larry mentioned, it could be the Roaring 20s again, but in a whole different way. You never know, man. So I think Chris and Bree hit on something perfect for me. It's the state of mind. If you keep a positive state of mind, usually things you'll just find yourself always happy, always doing what you do, and that's just how I've been looking at it. I think I've been home like everybody else, teaching, but finally about a month ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was walking in the kitchen to get something to drink, and it finally did hit me. It's like, damn, I'm still home. I haven't been on the road. I haven't, but it only lasted for like 5 or 6 minutes. It's like, oh, okay, things will be back again. So I think we can all do ourselves a great favor, and as well as the people around us, and especially our students, if we keep a positive outlook on what can really be a new dawn of a new age, a better age even, I think. Because Chris said, imagine if this was 5 or 6 years ago. We would be doing this. We'd be in much worse shape. We'd be relying on the cell phone. Hey, how you doing? Or whatever, you know what I mean? But now we literally can put on concerts. We are connected more than ever by meeting people I've never met before. So I think it's all a result of, if you could keep a positive mindset and just have faith. I know that sounds crazy and cliche-ish, but I think it's true. You keep an optimistic mindset.
We should all take our last dollars and buy a wallet.
Buy a wallet?
Buy a wallet. Take your last dollar and buy a wallet.
Well, I just
be
think
optimistic.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm going to have to sign out. It's
okay.
So great to meet you all.
Yeah.
But gonna carry on, and I hope to see you all again. It's it's really a good experience, man. Thank you all.
Thanks so much for joining us, Walt. It was really great.
Walt, before you leave, real quick, man, I don't know. Sorry, Scotty, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, go ahead, man.
Walt, before you leave, I don't know if you remember me when I was a kid. My dad used to play with you in Johnny Hague's band, I think.
Roger, right? Is that your dad, Roger?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were in the Hague's band together.
Yeah, Johnny Hague's band. He used to take me to rehearsals, and I would sit in a chair behind you and watch you play when I was 11, 12 years old, man. So anyways, I just wanted to say hi, man.
73 now, man. I don't believe it, but what happened? Time just went on, but man, it's so good to see you. I loved your dad, man. Good
Thank
player.
you.
Man. All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Walt.
Sorry, Scotty.
We appreciate it.
I gotta head out too, but I do want to share. This is my big pandemic project.
All right.
Congratulations.
More later on rebuilding trumpet chops and airways after having a child.
Yeah, man.
It's been a crazy journey, but thank you so much for today, and I'd love to watch the rest of the video when it exists. Thank you so much, Mark, everybody. Thanks,
Great.
Tom.
Thanks, Bria. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, but just to finalize what I was saying, I just think if we can all remain, just keep a positive outlook. Don't let it get you down. And don't be afraid to go talk to people. I know right now, a friend of mine was telling me she was trying to make an appointment to get some therapy for her son, and all of the psychologists' schedules are just packed. They can't, because everybody's down because of this pandemic. Everybody's getting therapy now. She said she can't even make an appointment. So that's another example of how I think if we keep positive, and it's a choice too. Thinking positive and just trying to lead a positive life, that's a choice we have to make. And for me, that's just what I've been trying to do. And it's just a natural part of, I haven't gotten depressed since I've been home. That's just me. So I just think if we can all do that, I think it'll make things a whole lot even more enjoyable when things finally do start to happen. And I do think there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think maybe by the end of the year, everybody will be vaccinated, or at least 90% of people, at least in America, I think, probably even sooner than that. And I think they said it still won't prevent you from getting COVID. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you just won't die or something like that, or you won't get deathly ill. Whatever it is. So I just do my best. And some friends of mine won't get the vaccine. I know people that won't get it. It's like, I don't know what to say. I don't try to rule anybody's life, but some people just won't get it, man. And what can you do? But I do know that at some point you might need it to travel, I think. And that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to make sure I got it. I don't want to have any issues.
Yeah. Definitely in Europe. Yeah. I mean, they're going to require a certificate, or what we're talking about in Europe is a vaccination passport. So definitely, if you're traveling to Europe, you're going to need something to indicate you've had a vaccination. So
I think everybody that got a shot, They did put it was entered electronically. You got a paper receipt, but they did have the little gun and they, scan those things. So it is in a system.
Yep.
So, all right. So, what can you do?
Scotty, I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying so I've lived in Denver my whole life and, luckily have been surrounded by some of the best trumpet players in the world in Denver, Al Hood, Ron Miles, Hugh Reagan, Greg Gisbert, right? These guys. And, my wife and I have been dreaming of moving to New York for years. And we're like, well, you know what? COVID is telling us one thing, that tomorrow is not promised.
Mm-hmm.
And now that things are looking a little bit more like a gap, we moved. And so now I live here in New York, and I think that's helped our outlook, is like saying, like, if you're going to do something, you got to do it. And even with obstacles, you find a way to make it happen, right? And so that's kind of where we've had our mindset since the beginning of COVID was, this is an opportunity actually to make a shift from one great place to another. And so I see a few New York folks here that, I'm real excited to go see on a regular basis and call, Trumpet family here, as much as I have in Denver. And so, I just wanted to say that is like, for me, it was an opportunity to say like, oh, you have time now. You have time. You're not touring. You don't need to go do all those things. If you're going to do it now. So now I'm in a hotel here on 42nd and 3rd Street until my apartment's open, but I'm here in New York. So yeah, I totally agree with you, Scotty.
Yeah, the power of positive thinking. Again, it sounds like a cliche, but it's true, man. It's whatever's in your life, usually you create that. You draw that stuff in, man. You know what I mean? It's like I had a roommate years ago, man, and famous saxophone player, great guy, man. But this guy, he had some issues from his childhood that kind of made him a dark kind of a person. He was just like that. Could play the living shit out of saxophone, anything on it, you name. But it got to the point where I would come home from campus or working my little local job, wherever I had. And if I would see his car in the driveway, I would just have to stop, man. Stop on the side of the street and say, okay, let me get prepared to walk into this damn house. As soon as I walk in the house, like half of the house is raining with clouds and thunder and lightning and shit. Oh man, this cat just created such a negative thing by how he looked at everything. And I was trying to tell him, I said, I know you need to get some therapy, man. You need to do something because you got people that love what you're playing, but they don't want to be around you. Mm-hmm. I don't care how great you play. You can play the shit out of Cherokee in 30 keys, but we don't want to be around you when you do it. So thinking positive is just such a, and one of my students asked me this a couple of weeks ago. He said, how do you stay, what do you do? I said, well, first, for me, it's the music, man. Every time I listen to Gene Harris or Basie or, whomever, it changes. I mean, it literally changes the chemicals in your body when you listen to good music or you read a good poem or something. That stuff physically changes you. It affects you. So I just listen to good music that makes me feel good. Joe Beam, Stan Getz, whatever, So it's a choice that we all have to make sure that we do what we need to do to get through this. And for me, it's just as simple as just trying to, just keep a positive outlook on it. Always look at the glass as half full. Always know that I might not be able to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but I know it's on. You know what I mean? And sure enough, started getting schedule information, more and more dates back on our schedule. It's like, okay, so obviously I'm not the only one thinking that way. There are other, I'm sure promoters are in the same boat, promoters and theater owners and club owners. They've got to think that way because that's their livelihoods too. So I just think overall, it's been a very interesting time for a lot of people, but the people that I've seen and I've talked to the most, everybody's positive about it. Nobody's really down. It's just been an adaptation to deal with it every day to get through what you got to get through. But you just, surround yourself, do things like this, what we're doing here, seeing all you guys. That's another step for me in a positive direction because all of you guys are working on stuff. That's like what Chris is doing. That's inspiring as hell. I mean, it makes me want to do that. You know what I mean? Damn, so, and I'm gonna have to ask you about that stuff too, man. So it's just, and what Alicia showed with the cameras, now I got to go get me 4 cameras. So, I just think if we can be believe it or not, we can be negative without knowing it. And I have friends like that too. They can just be talking a certain way and say, oh man, this cat, woo, wow, man, okay, I hear you, but let me get back in my lane. Shit, so I don't get depressed, you know? And so I find myself dealing with a lot of that when it comes to just people generally on a daily basis as it pertains to COVID. But so anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I just think positive. You guys are positive, and that's a great step in the right direction. So when we come out of this a year from now, 2 years from now, we'll be able to be in person and get back to what we need to do, because the people are dying for it. That's why I think there's definitely going to be a new roaring 20s. Yep. They are dying for it. I tell people all the time, when are you guys playing again? When they can't wait. So I think we'll all benefit from that.
Yep.
We got to keep our eyes on the prize.
Scotty, I think you're exactly right. And I don't know how many of you teach, but I tell my students, and in the master classes I do, and in the teaching my own students, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for this whole period to work on yourself, to go and fix the things that you need to fix about yourself while the expectations on you from outside influences are very low. The kids at school don't have ensemble performances, a lot of them. They don't have any expectations except to get in a room and work on themselves and become better by the time this is over with. So I think the positive thought is great, and the taking the opportunity to really use this time to improve yourself. When you come out on the other side, you be that much better. And because a lot of people are doing that. You're going to be behind if you don't do it. So I know on my own playing, when I was home, I've been lucky enough I've been in person all year with a barrier and mask, but we've been teaching at my university all year in person. And but the semester that I was home last spring, every day I got up and I just felt like I had the opportunity, being at home, to do my own practice regime, and I had extra time when I wasn't driving to work or messing around with stuff at school. It's a valuable time. Time is so critical and valuable, and I think you're exactly right. Positive thinking and working on yourself. So
yeah, exactly right, man.
Fantastic.
I agree. I've been in the same boat where with work, especially because so much of my work is as a writer. And anyone who's ever done that knows it's just an insane amount of time to write big band charts. Like it is insane. But the last year, I've just gotten to do my routine and work on my routine and add things to it. Work on things that I was taught years ago by heroes of mine and people who taught me great things, and I just never had the time to transplant it, because then suddenly there's someone counts to 4 and you have to play, so you can't, But I also wanted to say, just shout out to Kenny. Thanks so much for the mutes, man. I picked up the stinger when you first brought that up, and I remember bringing it up to the rehearsal, and guys were kind of looking at me funny, and then I used it. I used it in one of our Ellington shows, and then I used it with a plunger with some of the stuff we were doing, and kind of cootie kind of stuff, and I absolutely just loved it, and the audience thought it was awesome. And I just over the pandemic here, my mom got me I put it on my list. My mom got me the plunger mute for Christmas, and I thought, honestly, man, I was like, it's plunger mute, what? Like I got like 20 of them, like what, from all from different hardware stores though. And I thought, how could it be different? I'm amazed at it, man. Like I love it. It's the ability, because I would used to carry one that was drilled out and one that was solid and one that I had 2 little holes in. So I'd have like 3 or 4 on a gig, and then I'd have one that would clear a Pixie, and I'd have one that and I'm like, plunger mute stuff is one of my favorite things ever to do and to talk with. So, and I'm such a fan of I'm just addicted to swing and that bluesy sound, and I love the plunger for that. And man, I've never played anything like that, and it almost feels like a penance I'm paying, that I don't know what it is, but that I can't go out and play with everyone right now because I can't. All I can say is it's going to be with me on every gig. I'm going to take it everywhere, and I love it. So thanks for doing that.
I just want to piggyback on what Johnny just said about your plungers, Kenny. I might have mentioned this the last time we got together. When I was on the Ellington band the first time in the 80s, I sat beside Barry Lee Hall, and he had a plunger that Cootie Williams had given him when he first got on the band in the 70s. and he let me play it several times, and it was so supple. It just felt, it felt like my hand, it didn't feel like this thing that you would use to get the sounds, and that's the way your plunger feels to me. It feels like it's 50 years old already seasoned and all that, and then being able to adjust the air, that's just brilliant, man. I love it.
Yeah, man. You remember you brought it to Birdland when we were recording?
Mm-hmm.
I used it that same night, and it's recorded, man. I went straight in because I'm very particular about my plungers, man. Okay, no problem. I didn't even have to think about it. So yeah, congratulations on that again. Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
I'd be interested to hear the story of how that was developed, and also the stinger mute as well, Kenny. Maybe you can tell us a bit more about that.
Sure,
I'm going to quickly chime in. I don't want to interrupt. I have to sign off, so I just want to say it's great to chat with all of you, and look forward to more of this.
Thanks very much, Alicia.
Thank
and thanks
you.
for sharing your setup as well.
My pleasure. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, because I was a learning curve, so I can help
Thank you for the inspiration, man. You're awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
And I was going to say the same. I got to take off, guys, but this has been amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Likewise, I'll see you guys. See you later.
You guys are awesome.
Thanks a lot. Take care, Joshua.
So, yeah, the plunger, I've got him here with me, but, I got to mention when Ed Hirschman, my partner in creating these, and I, first started, I told Ed, I said, I want to engage some trumpet players I know who are serious plunger players who are, important in the trumpet community to get their feedback. And Ed's like, well, why do you want to do that? You're a great trumpet player. I'm like, well, because I'm not the only trumpet player in the world, and there are a lot of people who are a lot better than me who can give us some feedback. So two of those gentlemen are here, Tom Williams and Scotty Barnhart. So thank you both for your input in developing this plunger. Because I think it's important to engage other people. It wasn't just creating something that I wanted for myself. It's important, and as we all know with the plunger, there's only one book about playing plunger mute by Al Gray. There haven't really been any other books. Scotty talked about it, I think, in his book a bit, right? Right, Scotty?
I'll talk about different plunger players, yeah.
But in terms of like a method book, there just isn't anything. And, for my whole life, I've always loved playing the plunger. Always. Like from the time I started playing the trumpet, when I started studying with Walt Blanton, I heard Walt playing the plunger one night at summer camp. I was, to be able to afford to go to summer camp, my family was very poor growing up. I had to work in the kitchen. And so I didn't sleep in the cabin with all the other kids. They had me in like sharing a room with 3 other people just off the performance space, and that's where Walt would practice every night. And I heard him playing plunger one night, and I couldn't sleep. I listened to him practice. I was in my bed. Other guys were asleep. I was listening to Walt practice and play the plunger. And when he finished practicing, I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was like, what was that sound? I'd never heard it before like that. I'd heard it used in big bands, here and there, but I'd never heard anybody really express themselves that way with the plunger. I hadn't been exposed yet. So I talked to Walt about it later, and Walt started to talk to me about Snooky Young and about Cootie Williams and about Clark Terry and, the masters, and so I started listening. And, when I went to Berkeley, I studied with Herb Pomeroy and asked her to write me a letter of recommendation to go to Banff. And Herb talked about my plunger playing, and I hadn't studied it in terms of out of a methods book, but I listened to the masters, and I absorbed it, and I just did my best to try and copy that sound. And I've always loved it, So playing with Wynton, Wynton is one of the most prolific composers alive today, in my opinion. Some might argue that, but that's fine. We're not going to get into that. In my opinion, he is. And he's written many, many pieces for full orchestra with big band. And so with the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra, we've had the opportunity to sit. Literally, they sit us in the middle of the orchestra with a brass section behind us. We sat with the Chicago Symphony and did pictures and exhibition with them. And hearing that brass section, me and Greg Gisbert, Greg was in the band for that. We were cupping our ears like this to absorb as much of that low brass sound from that orchestra. And we've done all kinds of things like that. But Wynton will write many things for plunger and for tight plunger specifically. And there'll be some things that he'll write that'll be in unison with the oboes who are behind us or the flutes. And every plunger I had played sharp when we played tight plunger. Every single one of them.
Huh.
And so you had to lip them. And, you can do it, but then I started to discover, the feeling after I play a plunger solo, when I was touring with Jimmy McGriff's quartet or whatever, my chops would be really tired. And I never really knew why. And when we were doing this with orchestras in a classical setting and actually tuning notes to oboes and shit, I realized my chops get tired when I play plunger because I'm constantly lipping notes to play them in tune. And it's like, man, we need to come up with something better. And nobody had done it. Nobody had thought to do it. And I had these big plungers that I found in upstate New York years ago. When I first met Winton, I did a series of recordings with him called Marsalis on Music, with the Tanglewood Symphony under the direction of Seiji Ozawa. Yo-Yo Ma was there. And I found these plungers at a hardware store that were a little bit bigger and they played a little bit better in tune. So I bought a case of them and I gave them away to everybody. Every trumpet player I'd meet who played plunger, I'd just give them a plunger, in New York, in the, New York trumpet community. And I was down to my last couple. And I gave one to Winton when I got into the band. And that's the plunger he was using. And he plays a lot of plunger, man. And for whatever reason, Jazz Lincoln Center is kind of hard on our mutes because they go with the equipment truck and the people just throw them around and whatever. And our mutes get a little bit abused and it's just kind of a drag. I've tried to talk to people to no avail, but that's another story. But between that and the fact that Winton plays a lot of plunger, his plunger cracked, as most rubber plungers do when they get old. They get hard and they crack. And so I had a big crack in the side of it, and he said, hey man, can you find me another one of this size? So I said, I'll try. I checked probably like 25 different stores. Everywhere, every time I would come across a hardware store, I'd go in, I couldn't find it. I called the manufacturer of it. They didn't make this size anymore. So I had to tell Wayne, sorry man, I looked, I really did my best, but I couldn't find any. And I was talking to my man, Ed Hirschman, who just, we played together in high school. We've been friends forever, man. And he's a great trumpet player. He's also a mechanical engineer with a master's in marketing. And Ed had taken the initiative and started developing this music he called this mute he called the Chicago Stinger. It was based on one that I had been using called the Chicago, which was from the 20s, a little tiny metal pixie type mute with a kazoo filter in the end. And it was a two-piece mute set. It was that along with a metal plunger with felt on the inside. It was a really unique sound. Ed heard me doing a live feed from Dizzy. He said, man, what the hell was that sound? And I told him about it. And next thing I know, he started making them because that's the kind of mind he has. He said, send me a picture of the mute. I said, okay. He said, no, I sent him a picture. He said, no, a picture next to a ruler. Said, okay, so he started making this on his own. And it was kind of squirrely like most Pixie mutes and like most buzz mutes, but it kind of got a cool sound, so Ed started making this Chicago Stinger, he called it. And then when it, I called Ed and I said, man, we can't find this size plunger, man. Is there, any music or any hardware stores in Jersey where you live? He's in Princeton. Can you take a look and see if you can find it? I sent him a picture of the plunger. And Ed, being the engineer that he is, said, man, let's just make one. I'm like, well, shit, how do you do that? So we started talking and brainstorming and, started talking about the qualities that I want out of a plunger. And, for the entire history of the trumpet, you want a plunger, you go to a hardware store, you find a plunger that sometimes, I'll bring my trumpet in to see how it fit the bell, and then I'd go to the checkout stand and I'd take the stick out and give it back to the guy and he'd laugh at me, said, what are you doing? And, then I'd go home and I would take a Swiss Army knife and I'd cut out the hole like Clark Terry taught me to. And I put a coin on the inside, like Clark Terry told me to. Clark said you got to put a coin in there in case you get kicked off the bus so you got someone to make a phone call with. But it was to adjust the sound, the tonal quality when you play the plunger, the flow of the air and all that stuff. So I'm like, man, trumpet players throughout history have had to buy these tools made for plunging shit out of your toilet. Intention matters. and use them to make music out of. And man, intention matters. It's important in everything we do, including making music. And then you get a section of 4 trumpet players, all with different plungers from different stores, different brands, different size holes, different coins, and they don't balance and blend. It's like, man, what the fuck are we doing? Why has nobody done this? And so I started looking at things that I wanted, and so two of my favorite all-time plunger players, and I'm sure everybody would agree, are gentlemen I mentioned earlier, Snooky Young and Clark Terry. And they both played those big blue plungers from, where were they, Sweden? Scotty knows the story of where those came from. But they both play, I think it's the same one, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken. But
I think so.
yeah, and they were blue. And so first thing I knew was that I wanted to make the plunger blue in honor of those two, because they've just been such a huge impact, made such a huge impact on me personally and on the sound, And then I was thinking, you get a whole section of trumpet players playing with the same size hole, and you can open it or close it depending on what you're using it for, and you can actually get a uniform sound within a section. So we first we 3D printed them. We had a friend who had a 3D printer we reached out to, and Ed designed them in his computer based on the dimensions that I told him I wanted. And we probably made, 20 different sizes, going from smaller to extremely large. First of all, the first test is a test for pitch. How does size affect the pitch? And size being the depth and the circumference. So I've got two different ones here. You can see that this one's a little bit smaller. This one's a little bit bigger. They're both very close to in tune. This one is really well in tune. And again, thank you, Scotty and Tom, for testing these for us, because I really appreciated your input. But and that's more or less it. So we came up with these. Winton and Ryan Kaiser, who were also testing for me, and Marcus Printup. Marcus liked this one, liked the big one. For Ryan and Winton, they said, "Man, it's too big. It's and I said to Winton, I said, well, maybe consider this. Maybe what you're used to is too small." And Winton said, maybe. Then he walked out of the room. But for them, and also a trumpet player in New York, a dear friend named Jamie Dauber, and she's fairly short and has small hands. And the guys at the show Chicago, Glenn Drews and Earl Gardner, were both testing them for me as well. Jamie was subbing in the show, and she tried the big size, and I talked to her, and she said, "Kenny, that's too big for my hand. I can't hardly fit it." And so Ed and I decided to make one that's a little bit smaller as well. And this one, it's got a little bit less of a lip on the inside, but that's it was a pretty long process, about 1.5 years of research and development and getting these together. So we got them together, and it just happened to come together a couple of months after COVID. We've been working on it for quite some time before then. As Scotty mentioned, I went to Birdland and gave Scotty one, I think, and they recorded a great live CD. I'm not sure if it's out yet. I don't think it is.
Couple more months.
Yeah, it is killing. I was there when they recorded, and man, the band was swinging so damn hard. But we gave a set to the Count Basie Orchestra. Scotty is an endorser. The Count Basie Orchestra is our first full band endorser. And we got the trombone ones coming out. They're in the R&D development phase now. We've got the prototypes out. We just recorded our gala for Jazz Lincoln Center, and it's the first time that a band has used plungers throughout the entire brass section together. And I had a tear in my eye, man. It meant so much. Like, look around and hear these plungers, and they sound good. Yeah. We did a live concert from Rose Hall on Friday night, and everybody was using them there, and you can hear them. There's one thing where Marcus wrote a thing it's like I'll just play it real quick, real simple. Sorry. Like that, goes from a watt to a closed plunger, tight plunger.
Perfect indication, man.
With the trumpet section in unison.
Perfect indication.
You can hear it, man. It's like, and they didn't show it in the video, the trumpet section using them, but you could hear it. And it's like, man, it sounds good. It made me so proud, And through the process, people, I was getting a lot of messages about the Stinger. Ed and I both were, because Ed stopped making them because it was too labor intensive, and they really weren't that good, the earlier ones. And he'll admit to that. They were just out of tune, squirrely, like most Pixie Mutes. So I talked Ed into it, to making the new one. This is the Chicago Stinger Gen 2. And it's a completely different... Vince, later, man. Great to see you, bro. I saw your thing.
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah, Vince.
Really appreciate it.
So just real quick, this Chicago Stinger Gen 2, We started from scratch, and it's got 3 kazoo filters in it. We make our own kazoo filters because the ones made for kazoos are for toys and they bust out. You play them for a few minutes and you blow them out. So we're actually making our own filters that are on the inside. These covers are this design for a reason. It's not just because, because it looks kind of pretty or whatever. We tried all kinds of different things. It's about the amount of air that will be allowed to come through and still maintain a good buzz, and protection for the filters. We experimented. This top comes off. We got a disc here with holes in it. We tried all kinds of different configurations for holes and how that affects the pitch, the sound, the stability of the mute. This is what we came up with, because it diffuses the air, so it's not going to break out the filters that are in here. And our corking system, you notice it's not a straight line. It's crooked. We tried different methods. I mean, we left no stone unturned to figure out what was going to give us the best buzz and the best sound. So we just went public with this. We don't have them all in hand yet. They're being made right now. We actually bought a 3D printer. They're made with a 3D printer mostly. But it's been fun, man. It's been like a side project to keep me positive, like Scotty's talking about, through COVID. Because honestly, man, I've suffered my entire life from depression, man. I had a difficult childhood. My parents were divorced very young. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it, but I've always suffered with going to the dark side, and I've had to learn to not do that, and discovered when I'm doing that, it's because I'm living in the past. I'm not present, and if I'm having anxiety, it's because I'm living in the future and I'm not present. But if you're present and deal with what's in front of you in the moment, for me anyways, all that stuff kind of subsides, and I put on my favorite happy tune, I gotta say, is Dizzy Gillespie's Sunny Side of the Street. I have a lot of songs that I like to listen to when I'm feeling like I might be going that direction, and they just uplift me and keep me positive, and doing positive things with my time. Connecting with people like you all during this time has been huge. With Scotty, and I started a nonprofit organization in my hometown for jazz education. Scotty came on and talked to our kids. They were doing Little Darlin' at the time. And he talked to them about the Count Basie, how the band plays it, and some of the history of the Count Basie Orchestra. And, he was just amazing and so positive. And it was such a wonderful experience for these kids. A 12-year-old kid trumpet soloist, Scotty offered to have him come up on stage and sit in with the Count Basie Orchestra to play that solo with the band when they come through town, through Vegas the next time. That kind of love, that kind of passion, that kind of care that Scotty exudes is real. That's who he is, and it's inspiring to me. And I've learned so much just from observing Scotty and people like him, and Winton too, man. I remember Winton addressing a room full of like 2,000 kids one time and talking about that, and talking about, every situation we're in has a positive and a negative side. Everything we're in has positive and negative. That's just how it is. There's yin and yang. It's important to be aware of the negative, but focus on the positive, and Winton showed us a great example of that when his father passed away. If anybody saw what he talked about when Ellis left, Winton's words were so positive, so uplifting, so beautiful. He's facing the darkest thing you can go through in life, which is death, with positivity. So I've struggled during COVID with negativity, and I struggle with it every day, man. I'm not gonna lie. But I wake up and I think of what can I do today to be positive? What am I grateful for? And I focus on gratitude. And it's a tough time we're going through. But man, seeing a lot of the folks have left this call, but Alicia and what she's doing, embracing the technology, and it's just like, wow, that's amazing. It's inspiring. And Chris Johnson, who I just met a few weeks ago, he subbed for Marcus Print up on a residency we did in Detroit. Man, he's a great trumpet player, man. He's a complete badass.
Oh yeah.
He subbed in the band, and Ryan Kaiser's like, oh my God, who is this guy? And he was playing Marcus Printup solos and sounded as good as Marcus Printup, like reading through with the band for the first time. Man, this dude is bad. And then to see the stuff he's doing with looping and all that, man, it's so inspiring, man. And I think, for me, it's important to be present. I'm going to say that again, man. It's important to be present. and rather than look at the situation we're in and be bummed out because we can't do what we want to do. Let's focus on what we can do, and it's a profound lesson for me, to be honest. And one of the other gigs I do is Sesame Street, and we can't go into the studio to record. When COVID hit, they're like, what are we going to do? And so we all had some, different kinds of recording equipment. I decided to invest and upgrade my equipment so it's on a professional quality. I got the same stuff they use in the studio. And so I've learned how to run Pro Tools and record from home. And I'm not good at doing any kind of editing or any of that really. But we've all, like all of us, have had to learn to do that kind of stuff to a certain degree. But it's important to embrace what you can do. And I think when we come out the other side of this, when we walk into that light at the end of this long, dark tunnel, those of us who have been able to embrace the presence will hit the ground running, and those who don't and are focusing on what things used to be and things are never going to be the same are going to really be struggling, unfortunately. And I think it's really important to be present and like Scotty said, man, like Scotty's whole message is just beautiful, man. Just be positive, focus on positivity. And sometimes you got to consciously do it. You got to try. I've dealt with roommates on the road like what he was describing. You walk into the house and it's darkness, man. You walk in.
Thunder, lightning, shit, clouds, shit.
Yeah, man. No, and I've been that person too. And I don't like me when I'm that person. So it's important to focus on positivity and love, like this beautiful baby Johnny Summers is holding.
Exactly.
This is my little guy.
All right, what's up?
Hey.
Kenny, I gotta say, man, you're one of my heroes, and I'm thankful for you. So thank you for
brother.
everything you do, and I love listening to you. Scotty, I'm thankful for you too, and everybody here, and everyone that was here. And this little guy loves he loves jazz, and he loves your Sesame Street record. That thing sounds great.
Thanks,
all the writing from everybody on it sounds great. Your playing sounds great. I love it. And he's gonna grow up hearing all y'all. He's a little behind. He's just getting a little bit of a happening. It's just start. Can you go? No. He's getting there.
All right. Hey, Cass, I got another Zoom thing in just a little while, so I got to prepare for that.
Scotty, great to see you, bro.
Great seeing you. Thanks so much. Really.
Always my
pleasure,
pleasure.
Scotty.
Good. See you guys next time. Take care now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care. Next time.
I got to run too. I think I'm on diaper duty. So
okay.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you guys soon.
Later,
great. Thank you very much, Johnny. I guess Dimitri hasn't spoken, and Gary, you haven't, other than mentioning a few things. So Dimitri, maybe you'd tell us a little bit about what's happening in France and what's happening with your mouthpieces and just a little.
I learn. Do you hear me? Yes, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dimitri. Yes.
I learn a lot of things today. I'm thankful. And was Kenny was saying about positivity, because I grew up with audio cassette of Wynton Marsalis when I was kids. I haven't CDs, just Art Blakey and Wynton Marsalis. And so I was hearing. And so positivity this year's of virus, it's terrible, but it was good for me because as it was forbidden to make everything, I have can spend my life at work, and I can I have made work, and so it's for me the positive way of the virus that there is no social life, but for me it's forced me to work. So
and to make great mouthpieces, really.
Yes, I'm right with Kenny in the positive way, but I must say, I'm really sad to hear Kenny saying it's a struggle, it's a hard life, because I follow him on Facebook, and when I see Kenny, for me it's kind of paradise, trumpet, life, all. And when I hear you right now, I'm so sorry for you to see you sad, because for me, Kenny Rampton is kind of stars with Winton, and why how this guy can be sad because it's a perfect works is a world's trumpet summit. So I'm sad for you, Kenny, and hope soon you can go on live and play and share your music. So
thank you.
Keep going and keep going. And I'm used to push to make like on Facebook. I see your new masterpieces with Josh Landress. He put often pictures about you.
Huh.
So I make the how we say in English the push, the like,
the like button, the like
the
button.
like. So it's interesting to follow you on Facebook. Yes.
And Gary, are you have any dates for your orchestra, or is it?
Yeah, you know, things are starting to happen, and we've got our first outdoor event in. I'm in the Detroit area. Been here since most of my life. I lived out in LA for several years, but most of my life I grew up here and am back here, and I lead a big band and a jazz quintet. And you know, obviously everything's been dead, but we've got our first gig at Metro Beach, which is they have a great summer series there, and we're playing there March 30th, which is what is it? Maybe Memorial Day weekend. I always get the two mixed up. So we're playing there, and I just booked another gig with my quintet, and so I got a couple gigs with that, and we're just working on really putting some new marketing concepts together to kind of like get the people more interested in big band music here by we're doing setting up shows with decades. So we're doing 60s, 70s, 50s, 70s as far as I'm going right now. But obviously we can do the 30s and 40s quite easily, but it's the other ones that have, and we've got some good music on that we're working on and putting together. So that's it's exciting stuff, and hopefully we'll get interest in people actually. Yeah, especially where my goal is always getting younger people interested in you know, live bands with live instruments with real people playing them. But I got to tell you, you know, Kenny, I'm a huge fan of your guys, and I love the Lincoln Jazz Orchestra, all these other guys that were on here. I studied, and still I'm actually working on writing. I've never wrote songs, and I'm working on that now with Charlie Porter. And so I've been around the music world forever. I'm just kind of like way in the background somewhere here in Detroit. But my passion is none less than anyone else out there that loves, especially playing trumpet.
That's cool. Next time we're in Detroit, we got to hang, man.
Yeah, let me know when you're going to be here. I'd love to. It would be totally cool for me to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know Walter White?
Yeah, I know him a bit. I don't. We're not. We know each other. We don't. Okay. Yeah, we know each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Kenny,
there, but we couldn't hang. You know Kenny?
Yeah, I know Kenny real well. Kenny used to sub for me years ago when I started the big band. When I couldn't be there, he was my sub, and so we go way back.
Robinson's Remedies, man.
Exactly. It's the best stuff out there. I don't use much of that stuff, but if I'm going to use it, I use it.
It's gotten me through many, many difficult situations, man.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff. It's definitely the best stuff that's ever was created out there for sure.
By the way, Kenny, I love your horns. I've seen, you know, both of them, and I mean, I guess Mike Del Quattro had made both of them, but fantastic horns. I mean, really.
Thanks. I just got this one back a couple days ago, maybe even yesterday morning. But I love this horn, man. It's so much fun to play. Both of them. Del Quattro, if anybody hasn't played his horns, check him out if you can. He's really doing great things. He's a true craftsman. And cool. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Mike Del Quattro for about 10 hours straight, probably. I love that guy. I love his work, man. I've never played a trumpet I like better.
Wow.
But I've been going, you know, muting myself and, you know, practicing a little bit while we've been going through this, because I got 2 songs I got to record before 7 o'clock.
Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap it up since we're just 5 of us now. And in any case, really appreciate everybody's input. It's been a fantastic evening here I'm in Europe, so it's in the evening. But really, thanks for everything. Every one of you have contributed interesting discussion points and stories and anecdotes, and I hope that there'll be an interest to have another one of these Zoom Trumpet Summit types of video conferences in a few months. So if you're available and free, it would be great. And hopefully we get a chance to put it on the ITG news as well, and save the recording for everyone. So if anyone wants to take a look at it, they can see what we talked about. So
Great.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a
Thank you,
great
Thanks,
rest of the
Mark.
day, a
Thanks
great
so
evening.
much.
Yep. Take care. Wishing you
care.
all the best.
Yep, thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Night evening. Good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.